Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be. My name is Kevin Vorheis, and I would like to welcome everybody, wherever you may be, to a panel discussion to discuss some issues regarding building new Toastmaster clubs. For everyone's benefit, the reason we're having this discussion, one, is to help me complete my level 5 in the pathways in the presentation mastery path. I enjoy facilitating discussion, and I figured what a great way to inform everybody to talk about something that is a key performance indicator at the district level, as well as something that can add a lot of satisfaction to somebody's world and to somebody's life. What I've enjoyed about club building is it's given me the opportunity to change the world 20 people at a time. So that is what inspired me in 1993 when I started my first club, and that's what keeps me going today as club extension chair for Toastmasters District 40. For everyone's benefit, please if you want to keep your cameras on, that's fine. My only suggestion for housekeeping is that we keep the microphones on mute when you're not speaking. There will be a chat line available to our host, Michael Pope. If you have any questions for the panelists, please send a chat message to Michael. And not everybody, but to Michael. And then when we come to the appropriate time in the discussion, then Michael will read those questions, and then we'll talk to the panelists from there. And Michael, is there anything I have left out? Oh, this session is being recorded. So if you have colleagues that wanted to be here but didn't have the ability to come, then by all means, after the session is over, Mike will place the recording on YouTube, and Michael will send the link to everybody who is registered for the session. All right, we are ready to go. So first, I'd like to thank our panelists. I would like to thank panelist Greg Gazin, past district governor from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'd like to welcome past district governor Nina John from India. I'd like to welcome Vitaliy Fursov, past district director from Toronto, Canada. Michelle Alba-Lim from Oregon, and Sondra Nunez from Roseville, California. So let's get started with our questions. To get our panel, to get our discussion going, I will start with Vitaliy, and then we'll go Nina, Michelle, Sondra, and then Greg. So the first question is, there are times when I'm trying to recruit people to help start a new club, such as serve as a club sponsor or mentor, be on a demonstration team, etc. And how do you convince somebody or talk somebody into that starting a new club is as important as saving an existing one? And I try to tell them they're not mutually exclusive. Vitaliy?
Great question, Kevin. Thank you so much for inviting to this panel. And the answer to this question, based on my own experience, you don't really have to convince anybody. You have to work with people who have talents, and you have to work with people who really want to work with you, really want to help you. So convincing, it's, in my opinion, really wasting of time. However, if you have to prove that it is beneficial for the district and for the organization in general to start new clubs, you simply give analogy to people how other corporations are growing around the world. Would that be enough if we have just a single McDonald's store per town? Would that be enough if we have just a single Walmart store per town? Something like that. You see, these other organizations are growing simply because the demand is growing. So demand for self-education, demand for improving skills, demand for becoming better leaders is obviously growing. So we have to give people opportunities. And not everybody can attend your meeting, which is starting at 7 p.m. on Monday, or every second Monday, right? In this case, you have to give people variety. So if you have to convince, then that would be your spiel. However, in my experience, whenever I'm working with Toastmasters, whenever I'm attending club meetings, any other events where I meet new faces, I constantly scan the audience. And I'm looking for talents, I'm looking for leaders, I'm looking for people who are self-motivated, people who I will be enjoying working with, first of all, and people who are better than me. So people who can help me to achieve something great. And then I simply invite them to my team. I share my vision with them. And one of my habits is I never ask people, can you help me? I never ask people, can you do that? I'm approaching people by saying, Kevin, I need your help. This worked much better. This is not a question, it's a statement. And the only answer to this or reaction to this statement would be, what kind of help do you need, Vitaliy? And then we're engaged in a conversation. Then I can share my vision with you, and I can always find a place for a great, talented person on my team. And also keep in mind, starting new clubs, growing the district, you have to have a huge team. It takes about 20 people to start a single club. So if you want to start 10 clubs, go count, right? So it's a big job for a big team. You have to work with those who are already motivated and those who are already excited about doing something significant. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Vitaliy. Sondra, would you like to add on to Vitaliy's statement, to his reply?
Yes, I would. First, I absolutely agree with everything that was just said. In addition to that, I like to explain to people or ask them, invite them to think about why they joined. I spoke with a district director recently, and this is how he explains the why we need to continue building clubs. Because many people, if they find Toastmasters at their job, that's the only place they would ever find it at. And if we didn't have a company at their job, they may never have discovered the program. They may never have joined the program. They may never have become area director, division director, district trio members. So we are in the business of offering, just like Vitaliy said, as much opportunity to people as possible. Back to you.
Thank you, Sondra. Would either Michelle, Nina, and Greg, please comment if you would like to share something with us on that.
Nina, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Thank you. So, thank you everyone for this opportunity. It's great interacting with people across the world because there are so many similarities in the experiences we have and yet so many differences. We started District 82 in 2004, and when we started there was Toastmasters was unheard of in India. Today, District 82 has spawned, I think, 4 other districts, all of which are going to split again this year. So we're going to have about 8 districts from the original one, District 82. And when we started, it was just, as you said, a bunch of committed people, all of whom just wanted to improve our communication skills. I mean, leadership became a byproduct that improved us and ourselves. None of us sought the leadership positions. But Toastmasters has changed each one of us. And I think the experience is reflected especially at the club level. So the club I belong to, Chennai Club, Toastmasters Club, we refer to it as the Lighthouse Club because so many of our members have gone out and set up other clubs. It's very interesting when people go and set up community clubs because that's much more difficult. It requires a lot of hand-holding by all the current members. It requires people's time, money, resources. And remember, this all started when there was no question of our expenses being reimbursed in 2004. Now area directors get paid for their travel expenses and stuff. But the best is when they go to corporate clubs and say, I want to start a club in my company. And that's when the magic really starts. So you find that individual champion grows in both professional and personal terms. And then what happens is, if the organization supports him or her properly, you find a proliferation of clubs within that particular organization. But there are so many other factors, and I think club building requires both individual and collective effort. And I think across the world, it's pretty much the same. So I'm looking forward to hearing the experiences from the others as well. So back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Nina. Next question is, and we'll start with Greg. What would you like to answer the previous question?
Yes, we actually would have liked to.
Yes, if you have time, I wouldn't mind.
I do. Go ahead, please.
Michelle, do you want to go first or you want me to go?
You first, you first.
I just want to say, first of all, yes, again, thank you for having me here. I echo pretty much everything that was said. One of the things for me is the effort to try to change the narrative. Instead of always having the, why are we creating new clubs rather than saving old clubs, I think the narrative has to change with respect to how do we grow our district? Because if you save a club or create a club, you're in essence saving a district. The challenge typically happens in that it's usually the resources that are limited. So for example, at one time when I was District 42 governor, we had 265 clubs. Now we're smaller because we've reformed into 2. The challenge is that we had more clubs that needed club coaches, for example, than we actually had resources. So one of my thoughts, and I think that sort of echoes with what Vitaliy says, is that if you get people involved and you grow them, then you'll have people who are sponsors, and then you'll have people who are mentors. The second thing to do is, quite often what ends up happening is, because we have lack of resources, what do you do? Okay, which baby do you choose? And so at that point, what I like to say is, okay, it depends. Sometimes you'll have to make a decision. You've got one person. Do you assign that person the role of mentor or club sponsor, or do you assign that person the role of club coach? That's where you really need to do that SWOT analysis. That's where you really need to do that moments of truth and see where it's going to fit. You have an individual, and at one time our district was 1.3 million square kilometers in size. So if you have an available mentor, yet the club is 8 hours away, then that might change in terms of what you're going to do. So I think what you need to do is you need to treat it almost like a business and do a bit of a SWOT analysis. And sometimes those answers are going to happen. Sometimes you'll end up forming a club, sometimes you won't, sometimes you'll save a club, and then sometimes you won't. And you also need to see sort of where you're at, because if you have a club that you say, okay, we're going to save this club, but this is like the 6th coach they've had in 7 years, whereas there's an opportunity of forming a club here. All we need to do is get 3 more members. Well, I think you're going to have to make a choice. Back to you.
Very good. And Michelle.
Yes, I would like to answer that briefly. And thank you, everyone. I agree with everything that was said. I just want to add that I always come to anything from an abundance mindset. And as several have said, it's not exclusive. As Kevin himself said, it's not exclusive. What I like to do, and this has worked really well, is instead of trying to find totally different resources for starting a new club and helping a struggling club, I do my best to connect them, to marry them. One of my best examples was in 2012. We had a club that didn't do any project speeches they weren't called, manual speeches. They had only one vice president. They had not been distinguished since forever, but they had good people. They had really good evaluators. And then I wanted to start a new club. Guess who I pulled in? I didn't even tell them that, you want to be a club sponsor, because they hated anything to do with the district. They were physically and emotionally disconnected from the district. So that word help, I just said, hey, I need help. And they came and helped me. We had a demo meeting. They were the people who did the demo, and they're really good speakers, good evaluators. Guess what? We chartered the new club. They were, of course, the sponsor club. And I designated two from that club as the sponsors and 2 as the mentors. They got energized. My favorite experience was when one of those members who said, oh, I don't want those manuals, came to me one day and said, Michelle, how do I get that, what you call that manual? The thing you were showing, how much do I pay? And that club became distinct. I think it was President's Distinguished the next year, and they helped the new club. So it's a win-win. Back to you, Kevin.
That's outstanding results, Michelle.
Excuse me, Kevin, we've got a question from the group. How do you want to handle those councils?
What is the question, Michael?
The question is from Iona. Question is, how do we address the pandemic situation with starting new corporate clubs where people are losing jobs or the companies are laying off due to the economic downturn? So how do we address the pandemic situation with starting new corporate clubs where people are losing jobs or companies are laying off due to the economic downturn?
Okay, let's start with Sondra.
Yes, that does seem to be the exact situation that we're in. And I feel that we've always faced the same situation. No, it wasn't COVID, but we've always faced a situation where we're looking for corporations that can support a club. And right now, it's no different. Yes, absolutely, people are being laid off. Yes, corporates, not all of them are choosing, but many of them are. Many of them have remote working employees now. Many of them are open to helping their employees gain new skills, not only virtual, but I'm a business owner and I'm absolutely interested in helping my employees gain as many skills as possible in case I'm not able to employ them for a while. What interview skills can I give them? What can I give them? So in summary, I feel that not every corporation has been able to take a club over time anyway, but we can give people information, we can plant seeds with them that in the future they may be able to take advantage of, and we can keep searching out corporations that are able to take clubs at this time. Back to you.
Thank you. Who else would like to answer that question? Vitaliy?
Yeah, I would. I agree completely with what Sondra said. I also would like to add just a little bit. Keep the relationship with those corporations, right? If you keep good relationship, you may know their plans ahead of time. Not necessarily you will get their plans through HR or through the corporate head. No, you may get this information through club members who know or feel or understand that at some point in time they might be laid off or corporation is shrinking. What do you do as a district leader at that point? Get in touch with that corporation and now speak with somebody high. That could be the owner of the corporation. That could be, if you can speak to CEO, awesome. If you can't, find somebody like vice president or HR director, somebody in high positions, and talk to them, explain to them what Toastmasters is, and tell them, before you laying off your people, would you mind or would you consider at least extending their membership with Toastmasters for one season, for the next 6 months? That will help them to keep developing their communication skills. That will help them to find next job. That will help them to stay connected with communities, find new people, etc. Otherwise, you know what is happening to quite many people around. When people are losing job, it's a very stressful situation. People are coming home, they're shutting the door, shutting the windows, and they're sitting on their own for a couple of weeks, just thinking about what could I do to save my job? Why it happened to me? They're taking things personally. So the membership with Toastmasters will obviously help everybody. And at some point in time, that will do great thing to that same corporation, because at some point in time, they might invite that person to come back. And that person may come back as a better leader, better speaker, and they will appreciate it. So it's completely inexpensive and very great gesture. We've done that in the past, and few corporations consider doing that. We just helped to save several dozens of members. So that's
outstanding.
Kevin, may I?
Yes, Nina, yes, please. Thank you, Vitaliy.
Thank you, Kevin. I totally agree with all the points that were raised earlier. And I think the very fact that all of us now are meeting on Zoom is itself a selling point for Toastmasters, because earlier you just had video conferences or you had your office meetings, but now you learn in real time how to deal with different audiences. You're dealing with a global audience all the time, which we were not doing earlier with your regular office work. You're learning to deliver speeches or make your points in crisp 2.5 minutes or less. So these are all vital skills that people need. And since we're doing this at a relaxed atmosphere here in Toastmasters, they can transfer those skills right back to the workplace. And in India, I know everyone is working from home. So you need these skills much more now than you did earlier. So I think Toastmasters literally talk about how your negotiation skills, conflict management, presentation skills, all of these are covered in specific modules. Learn how to do them properly and be a better professional at your workplace. I think that's what we should be telling whoever is working in the corporates. Once they internalize that, it's a cakewalk.
Wonderful. Greg?
I agree with what both things were said. One of the thoughts that I had is that if we're talking about corporate clubs, we're also probably talking some organizations where people have, some of them have been there probably for a long time. They'll probably be having a group or an individual, or it might be an outside company that's going to be dealing with their transition out of the company. That might be an opportunity to approach some of these. So not only for clubs that already have Toastmaster clubs, but for companies that don't, or organizations that deal with transitions that don't, and approach them and say, here, you know, here's an opportunity to help some of the people that you're dealing with. We know how challenging it is already. We know how difficult it is. Some might say, wow, Toastmasters, I never heard of that. Geez, you know, if you can help me do something for someone who's being moved out of a job that is already in a panic mode, and you can get them within a group that, hey, you know what, they can improve their skills, they can have a group of people that they can work together with, yeah, by all means, I'm listening. That might take a lot of work, but I think it has a lot of potential.
Wonderful. Michelle?
Yes, very quickly. All of the above. I love listening to everything because I agree with all of them. I just wanted to add, because I am a senior professional in human resources in my other life, one of the approaches for corporate clubs would be, are you aware that when you're able to talk things out and you're able to put a different frame on issues like losing your job or being on a furlough, it helps people's emotional and mental state. You will be saving on insurance claims and the rehabilitation programs that you have to put in. So when you start talking like that to corporations, you'll see their eyes pop and go, oh, yeah, that's right. So we can position Toastmasters clubs, either starting new ones or allowing, as somebody mentioned, the displaced employee to continue being a member. We are actually helping the corporations to discharge their corporate responsibility to their employees by providing ways to help their mental health and their emotional health. So it's a win-win. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Those are all great responses. So now that we've gotten to the demonstration meeting, we've signed all the paperwork and sent that in. Now we have a club of 20 new members. How exciting. And so what I'd like to ask the panel now is, how do you onboard an entire club? What steps have you taken to help facilitate that? We'll start with Greg.
Thanks a lot. I've seen it happen many times. You've started a new club, everything is going, and the person who's doing it typically is going to try to do everything themselves. So the first thing you want to try to do is make sure that you're going to get some help. You don't want to do it by yourself. You want to have some sort of committee, could be made up of people from your club or get people who are there involved. But I think more importantly is that share the vision with the new members, right? They're not sure what to expect. They're not sure what they're going to be seeing. So, share your vision, share some goals that you might want to have, and also identify some of the resources that are already available from Toastmasters International. Because if you try to go through a step-by-step process, do it all yourself, and then try to cover everything that's covered in all the manuals and all the forms and all the resources that are on the TI site, you're pretty much going to be overwhelming yourself. If you have a corporate club, make sure that you get the buy-in from the management to try to encourage them and let them know what they're doing so that they can also encourage the members. So there are more other things to say, and I'll leave that for some of the other panelists, but those are some of the general things I feel that you need to do to get started with onboarding new members.
So to add to my question, and thank you, Greg, for that response, it made me ask the question, these new members essentially have no idea what Toastmasters is, and they'll duplicate everything that they see before them. So in onboarding this new club, how important is it for the sponsors and mentors to provide good, solid evaluations, examples as a Toastmaster, and good example of what conducting topics is like? We'll start with Michelle.
Yes, thank you. In fact, you probably saw I had muted myself. I wanted to respond to this. One of the strategies I've used very successfully is hosting. Having these new members, especially if they're total newbies, never been in Toastmasters before, have them hosted by the sponsoring club. They actually join as members, so they get access to the materials. And then they hear the evaluations, they experience going on base camp. They are members. And once this new club gets to 20, you can arrange a transfer. Best recent example a couple of years ago was Witty Storytellers Online, was the mother club or the host club for Witty Birds. And the connection, the relationship has continued. So they do not suddenly get like, oh, now we're Toastmasters. No, it's like a segue. It's a transition. They're initially members of the mother club. They experience evaluations, the whole 9 yards. And when their new club gets to 20, they are transferred. And I'm sure everybody on the panel knows that they don't have to pay again. Transfer members will not be counted as dual members. They transfer and the connection is seamless. Back to you, Kevin.
It's similar to moving a magazine or a newspaper subscription from one address to another, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Sondra, what does your experience suggest?
Actually, I really like what you just said, Michelle, because an executive committee member came to our district last year in District 39 and said that very same thing. As we were struggling to build new clubs, the opportunity exists to focus on growing existing club memberships to above 40 and then splitting them off. So that is actually a really good idea if you haven't thought about it before. The other thing that I noticed about strong clubs, the clubs in my district where they were started as brand new, they weren't break-offs, they had 17 or more brand new people. The sponsors and the mentors set the vision 15 years ago as to what kind of club they were going to be. They made a decision up front that they would be a President's Distinguished Club, and they set about setting the tone and the culture from the moment they opened the door, and were steadfast in bringing that vision forward year after year and training everybody that came into the club that this is our culture. So it started with their mindset, and then it takes a village, people. I would invite friends to help you. Not everyone wants to be a new club mentor or sponsor, but when you invite them, they would be willing to mentor someone, just one person, right? That's all they're going to do. So mindset, and it takes a village. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Nina and Vitaliy, would you like to add to what we've talked about?
Vitaliy, would you like to go first, or shall I?
You go ahead, Nina.
All right, thank you. Yeah, no, I was saying in District 82, we've had a lot of initiatives where we wanted clubs to gather together for different experiences. So over and above the DCP, we used to have we still have something called the Golden Gavel, which was additional activities such as, an outdoor meeting, two clubs meeting together, all kinds of things like that. And I think we should actually use this opportunity that we have now that we are part of a Zoom culture of Toastmasters, if I may call it that, where you have guest speakers. I mean, suddenly we have access to the best Toastmasters in the world at your own club meeting. I mean, there are world champions, there are leaders. Just one leader, Aditya Maheshwaran is from our club, and he was here last week. I mean, his impact, we were talking about how he was a club member for 6 years in our club, and this is where he laid the foundation. What an inspiration that is to new members. And because he was there, we had about 50 attendees, and all of them are going to go back to their clubs, or as guests, they're going to join. So we should use this opportunity to build up clubs and districts across the world.
Wonderful.
Over to you, I think.
Vitaliy.
Awesome responses, people. I learn a lot from you. And that's what I would like to stress out, specifically what Michelle said, sponsoring club or hosting club. If you look at the new club form, you see that sponsoring club right on the form. But rarely, most of the clubs, unfortunately, have a space there. Nobody sponsors them. So this idea of having a hosting club, amazing idea. I think new leaders should embrace this idea and think about how to employ it. And another thing what I wanted to highlight is recognition. Recognize as often as possible and recognize from early days. Start recognizing past mentors or past club sponsors right from the beginning of your term. Let people know, let people be curious about club sponsor, what does it mean, right? Club mentor, what does it mean? So talk about that. It is very similar to how some clubs decide not to recognize a timer or grammarian because we don't have guests today. There is no reason, right? We all know what this role is about. No, recognize it anyway. And that's a great tradition, great culture. So for you, whichever roles you feel would be important during your term, start recognizing them. As many as you can, and as early as you can. That will help you to wake up curiosity in other members. That will help you to educate your district about what these roles are. And of course, people will approach you as club growth director and they will say, club sponsor, what does it mean? I want to be a club sponsor. You will hear this left and right if you will start recognizing these roles. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vitaliy. This has been such a great positive discussion. I've enjoyed it. And I don't want to ask the next question as a purpose of being a downer, but what are the, when do you say no? You go to a company, they say they want Toastmasters, and they're willing to pay for everything, and it just doesn't seem like a good fit for anybody. So my question would be, when do you say no to a company or to a person who wants to start a new club? I know it's very rarely, but I'd like to hear what all of you think. Start with Michelle.
Yes, again, because I'm human resources, I just felt I'd like to speak to that topic. As the club growth director in the past, or the district director, there was a time when I visited an organization, I won't name the name, but it was obvious that the person, the proponent, wanted to start it, but had no understanding of what it would entail. He was a learning person, like a training person, and he thought it would be like classes. So it was obvious that he was not ready. What I did is I did not say no. I suggested that we explore. I didn't say you. I said we explore this. And Balrash, he was first vice president at the time. He actually came with me to visit that club, and he demonstrated how to use those manuals and all that. So that was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, closing on 6. Well, guess what? Recently, I saw posted on our district page that that club or that company finally chartered. So it looks like they were ready, they studied. So I never said no, I just said explore it, study it more. And they chartered last year. Oh, 5 years in the making. But I'm sure he was ready now.
So your question wasn't telling him no, it was how can we succeed to help your employees and to help do what you want and make sure we do it effectively.
Right.
Okay. Nina.
Yeah. We sometimes get this situation where somebody at world headquarters, USA or somewhere else says, oh, Toastmasters is wonderful. Let's start 20 clubs in India in 20 different cities. And this directive comes from the top, and the people on the ground haven't the faintest clue what is Toastmaster. They don't know who's supposed to do it. We go and do demos, meetings, and I'm like, look, let's get things very clear. One, are the people over here ready for Toastmasters? Understand the commitment. And one thing I try to push is do not charter the club straight away. Have a trial run for maybe 3 months if you want to see, do you have a Toastmasters fit? Because some of them have different shift timings. So the people who want to join are in 2 different shifts. So when do you get a common timing for the meetings? Who's going to pay for the subscription? And I strongly advocate the company not paying for the subscription. Pay only for the charter fees. Let them pay their subscription themselves. Mark it off in credits for your learning hours or something like that. Every time they reach a milestone, give them an incentive from the company, reimburse those fees for 6 months, do something like that, but do not pay for fees for everybody. Whenever the company pays for 20 people, 6 months later, that club is dead. Nobody does their projects. They treat them like some kind of Sodexo passes. Once in a while they attend, nobody takes, it just doesn't take off. And you need a champion from the lower ranks, you need a champion from the higher ranks before corporate clubs can really take off. That's my view. And if you don't have that, I'm sorry, even if it's 2 years down the line, just close the club or say, thank you, it's been nice knowing you, goodbye. So that's my view.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Greg?
Oops, sorry, unmute. The hardest thing is usually to say no, because I think in our hearts, we always want to make sure that we have more Toastmasters clubs. But I would not have a problem saying no to someone if I felt that their reasons were genuine. I would want to ask the question, why? Why do you want to start this club? We had one situation where that actually turned into a positive. There was an individual who wanted a club at a particular location there was a club there in the past, but it was the nature of the rotating shifts. It was the nature of the let's just say in general, it wasn't conducive. Now, what was suggested to them, and it wasn't my idea, it was someone else's idea, is we have another club that's struggling. They need and they're out of a location. Would it be okay if we moved it over there? In that particular case, it seemed to work out well. The other time you'd maybe want to say no to someone is that you have a situation, and this happened, where someone wanted to start, an individual wanted to start a club in a corporation. The company didn't want it, and he said he was going to do it by himself on his own time, and he was going to find another location to do it. But I just thought that if that was the case, then that would start to cause some rift or some conflict between Toastmasters and the corporation. So I think there's a few times where you just outright might want to say no, but then if you try to ask the questions and you ask why, then there actually might be a solution where that no may not be a specific no to new club, but it could still be a yes with respect to having a club on site.
As Michelle stated earlier, you want to look at everything from an abundance mentality.
Absolutely.
And that way everybody wins. All right, Vitaliy or Sondra, would you like to respond to that?
Sure, I can respond. Sondra, would you like to go first? No? Is it okay if I go?
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, first of all, I would echo everybody, and Nina, amen to what you said, specifically in regards of please reconsider help the corporation to reconsider of paying for members. And let me give you a great example of one corporation, not from my district, unfortunately, but I heard that during my training when I first joined the trio, and during the training, somebody in the training room, I don't remember which district it was, but somebody mentioned that one of the corporations allowed members to pay for themselves. However, when you complete your CC, it's a bonus of $100. When you complete your CL, it's a bonus of $100. When you complete your DTM, it's a bonus of $2,500. And all these bonuses would be handed by managers. So the manager will be invited to the last project to watch how their employee delivered that wonderful speech, and they will provide that check. Amazing! It's amazing idea, and you can only imagine how people would be inspired. Those who will attend that meeting as guests and just meet with the program for the very first time. What will catch their attention the most? That check for $100 will catch my attention the most. How I can get that one, right? And if that requires me to pay $100 and then work hard, I will do that for my own benefit. That's an amazing idea. Try to work with it. If I can find out what that corporation was, I will provide you full details. I believe it was Sony, but where, I don't remember which office in particular. The idea was brilliant. And in our district, during my term of club growth director and district director, I convinced few corporations to play this model. And they did, with some extent. Not necessarily they followed the amounts in particular, but they allowed members to pay, and they supported members by providing some monetary awards at the completion of the program. Some of the corporations also put additional conditions, like you have to attend 75% of meetings, for example. You cannot skip more than 25% of meetings. You have to complete at least one educational award during 6 months, and so on and so forth. So what does that mean? It means that the corporation actually fully embraced the Toastmasters program and made it a tool to achieve their goals, their needs. HR was working hand to hand with the club leaders to help them grow, to support these members. And pretty much all these clubs I mentioned those which I know in particular, they were always President's Distinguished Clubs. It was never an issue with that corporation to get the renewal fees or to get new members. New members were new members, in fact, for some corporations were standing in line, or they would put their name on the waiting list to join. How about that? So
yeah,
that works amazing. And, yeah, and in terms of saying no, there is no reason to say no. In Toastmasters, we have so many different ways to offer our program. Whenever a corporation is not ready to launch a club, there is a Speechcraft, amazing program. And you can offer Speechcraft for the cost of chartering a new club. And once your Speechcrafters ready to graduate, you give them amazing gift. You can say, guys, how about we launch a club and consider that whatever payment you made for the Speechcraft program, we will just transfer this money to Toastmasters International as your membership fee. It works also really, really well. You don't have to advertise that upfront. You can simply wait up until the graduation day. And I've never heard Speechcrafters say no to joining Toastmasters Club.
Would joining an online club maybe be another option to get them involved
nowadays,
in the program?
absolutely, yes, nowadays, absolutely.
Very good. We have about 15 minutes left in our discussion tonight. Are there any questions from the audience?
I don't see any additional questions in the chat. Audience members, you can unmute yourself and ask your question directly if you like.
Well, now that yes.
Since there's no questions, I think that I've built a lot of clubs, and I love the last question. Is there a point when you should say no? I agree. In Toastmasters, we don't need to be leaders that say no. We absolutely need to be leaders that look for solutions and look for ways to say yes. When I was building clubs as Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, I wish I would have used that strategy for a couple of clubs, because we just said yes to them without finding out all the information or without thinking it all the way through. We did a disservice to the people who became members in those clubs. One was a corporation where they were franchises, and they all met on Saturday mornings. And what they really wanted, we found out later, wasn't a Toastmaster club, but they wanted a communication and training program that we were giving them as the trainers. If we would have approached it that way, we probably would have had a lot more success with that group. The other one was a company where you have people from all over. They're working remotely. At that time, we weren't all on Zoom, and they were trying to come in from the field to the meeting place, and it just did not work for them. And again, if we had really thought through that, we could have found a different solution and offered that group of people existing clubs to join, and their company would have gladly helped support that. So I just like to remind everybody, as I said, about onboarding people and starting clubs, whatever we're doing, it has to do with a mindset of figuring out solutions for people. That's what we're in the business of doing, is we are creating opportunity, and we're finding solutions for members and corporations. And I think when we come at it from that perspective, we'll find that our districts start to become a lot more successful in building new clubs, in retaining members, and in gaining new members.
So what you're saying then is, if we would have, maybe we'll use your case as an example then, would you say those leads were qualified, could have been qualified better, more asking deeper questions, maybe a little more probing would have helped?
Yes. It just isn't the case of they have 250 people, so they can absolutely support a club. There are corporations that have 50 people who are a much better fit than a corporation with 500 people. right? So it's not just cut and dry. You have to really delve into what they're looking for. Some of our companies, they won't start a new club, but they require all people who want to become managers to go through the Toastmasters training program. And they're looking to us to help their employees find clubs. So it's always going to be a yes. We just need to figure out the best solution for them.
Very well said, Sondra. Greg and then Nina.
I just wanted to ask Sondra a question. So in this particular case, it was no to an actual club, but yes to Toastmasters training. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
We chartered a club.
Oh, you did charter a club. Okay. I was just going to ask that question because I know during my year as district governor, I recall there was one individual that tried so hard that he did charter this club. The company wanted it. It was a flooring company. The company wanted it, but the salespeople really didn't want it. They kept changing the time from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. It took probably 6 months. The club chartered, and then unfortunately, they didn't renew their dues. That was it. It didn't make it. So we're still thinking, okay, should that have been a no, or could there have been some other solution? In this particular case, like I said, they had enough people to support the club. The people just didn't want it. So what do you do in that particular case?
I agree. And the group that I'm talking about, they actually have franchises all over the place and they have clubs. But here in Sacramento, they all were gung-ho. I think we chartered that thing with 40 people. But what happened is they didn't want to be the club officers. And as we came up on the following year, what we discovered is they really didn't want to manage a club. Right. They just wanted to come to communication training.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Nobody explained to them that you lead a club, not manage it. But that's a whole nother conversation. Nina, you had something to contribute?
Yes. What I wanted to say was one of the things we do is when a corporate approaches us, we say we don't necessarily want to just come and do demo meetings for you. Why don't you people from your HR or from the people who are interested in starting a club attend a community club somewhere in your vicinity? So then you get the actual feel of a Toastmasters club as it is. And then you decide, do I want a Toastmasters club? Do I want a club in the organization? Do I want one in the community? Can I become a dual member? So all those questions come. If there are individuals who come, we also encourage them to go what I call club hopping. Go around the other clubs, see in terms of demographics, location, timings, which club is the best fit for you. And join that, not necessarily the first club you walked into. So both these things, I think, in the long term build up membership retention. And when there's a new club coming up or the prospect of a new community club, I found that one of the things that really worked is to send out people from our club as mentors. And over a period of time, they've just gone into that club and never come back here. They've built up that club and they're very happy being sponsor, mentor, founders, whatever you want to call it. So that also works. And one more point, I think Vitaliy was talking about speech crafts. There's an organization in Sri Lanka which does not want a Toastmaster club, but they have speech crafts 4 or 5 through the year. They have only speech crafts. All their officers are trained through speech crafts, but they do not want a Toastmaster club. So I think you have to leave it to each organization to decide what's best for them. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 8:54. We have time for one more question to 1 or 2 individuals responding on the panel.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So according to Pat Johnson, she says that this is an experiential learning program for a corporate club, right? So
right.
At the same time, I think one of your panelists referred to that this is corporate clubs are looking for communication training. So aren't we selling the same thing?
Thank you, Iona. And who would like to answer that?
Well,
Or was that
yeah, if I take that question, the experiential learning program is Toastmasters overall, right? We're not really selling the training when we sell Speechcraft. So Speechcraft is really prep for Toastmasters. And if you ever were involved with Speechcraft, you would find out that what members are doing, they are, or Speechcrafters in that case, they are going through the experiential learning. So they've been mentored through every single step. So, and that's the way they learn. And first they start from smaller roles, then they watch somebody else's speech and watch somebody else, Toastmasters, evaluate that speech. Next week, they are trying their speech. They're working entire week with the mentor, and then they're delivering their speech. Then they are trying to evaluate. So it is experiential learning. It's not a training program of any kind. I don't think we ever sell Toastmasters as a training program to anybody. Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Vitaliy.
Yeah, it is just the opportunity to give corporations the tool they need at that particular time. For example, a Pepsi Cola in Mississauga also purchased Speechcraft from our district for about 6 or 8 years before they chartered a club. So every year we would give them 1 or 2 Speechcraft programs, in fact, and many clubs would be involved. So that's how it works.
I have one more question. Can you speak to community clubs? I know we spoke a lot about corporates, and a number of us here are interested in how to start a community club without spending the whole year. Yeah, go ahead.
Kevin, may I respond to that? Because actually I prefer starting community clubs just because it's more exciting and you're bringing Toastmasters to the community, sharing the magic. One of the first things I do is to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. They are golden. Once you get the Chamber of Commerce knowledgeable about Toastmasters, you've made one step. Reach out to the local community organizations. And if, I don't know what country you're at, but if you have a YMCA in your community, reach out to the YMCA, because usually they will have a meeting room and they will let nonprofits use that. Reach out to the local media. Local media, believe it or not, are always hungry for news stories. The example I gave of the wonderful Oregon Word Masters, we chartered in a rural community. People were saying, you cannot charter a community club in a community that's rural. Well, I had the current mayor, the past mayor, the president of the Chamber of Commerce. We had people joining and we chartered. Because community clubs are so inspiring. You are, what is the Star Trek term? You are going boldly where no one has ever dared to go before, something like that. So please, and you can connect with me. I'll post my email address later on. You can connect with me for more details about how to start community clubs. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Michelle. And with that, I would like to use this time to thank our panelists. Some of you I've met before, some of you I haven't, and it was a pleasure working with you tonight. To our audience, we will be making this video available on YouTube. Everyone who registered for the session tonight will be sent the link. It'll be on the District 40 YouTube channel. And also, the panelists have agreed to make their email addresses available to the participants. So that will be taken care of as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the panelists, I'd like to say thank you for meeting tonight, and I appreciate everyone who has taken part. Good night, everybody.
A big hand to Kevin for organizing it. This was fabulous.
Great job, everybody.
Big hand, Kevin.
Nice job.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you to all the panelists and Kevin. It was an amazing experience. Thank you.
And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kevin, I would say I
you,
would
guys.
hang around for questions, but I'm going to a prospective club meeting in about 25 minutes. Prospective community club. So bye everyone.
Thanks to Michael also.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye, everybody.
thanks, Michael.
And,
That
and
was-
thank
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
to our host of the meeting tonight, Michael Pope.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks,
you,
Michael.
Michael.
That was great.
Michael.
Michael was our 2019 Toastmaster of the Year for District 40, so
Nice.
Okay.
it shows every time he does it.
I'd like to invite all of you to District 86 so you all can build us a number of clubs.
We're virtual now. They can do it, right?
We can, yeah.
I
All
just
you gotta do is send us an email. We're all available.
Yeah, and in fact, I've talked in Toulouse, France, and in Jerusalem, and all online, of course. And just because for those who are still here, we are. Oh, I couldn't share screen
Wanna
again.
share?
Yeah, because I wanted to show Friday Night Fun Masters. That is
Okay.
a prospective club that we are chartering, and our mommy club, or I was saying that we try and have where did it go? I wanted to show Friday Night Fun Masters. There you are. We are having Rich Hopkins. If you don't know Rich Hopkins, then Google him. He was very close to winning the World Championship. He was featured in the Toastmaster documentary Speak. So Friday Night Fun Masters is not yet it's a prospective club. Our target is to charter this year. And our mommy club, our sponsor club, is Witty Storytellers Online, which kind of matches the fun concept. And we are, in fact, already collecting dues through Witty Storytellers Online for Friday Night Fun Masters. So that's what I mean, is the synergy, it's the excitement, and it's so funny. Like several said, you do not ask, or what was that? You do not request or motivate people to be sponsors. No, they are lobbying for how do we help to organize this club. And just one little example, mentors. What we're doing, because we're a fun club, is the mentors have to give a pitch, or the prospective mentors have to give a 1 to 2 minute pitch for why they should be appointed as the mentor for the club. And then we will do a Zoom poll live and choose who our 2 mentors will be. Make it fun.
Nice. Leslie, do you have a question?
Yes, I had a question earlier, and it had to do with, I think Vitaliy kind of answered my question, but my question was, I'm actually in a corporate club, as well as 2 community clubs, and in my corporate club, we have an issue where we have a number of members that've been members of the club for a while, but they're not motivated in the sense that they're not doing speeches, they're not participating. They enjoy the experience of coming to the meeting, but they're not as motivated in terms of their goals. So I wanted to ask, how do you get those persons motivated? I like part of what Vitaliy said in terms of setting them some more objectives. In our club, we are actually growing. Our corporate club, we are, especially now with the coronavirus issue, we are on Zoom. We have Zoom meetings, and we are actually seeing our membership increase because people are seeing the benefit. But we're still not getting some of the older members to engage in the program, especially in the Pathways program. So I would like to hear from some of the panelists in terms of how you can, energize some of those members.
One of the things that I do with the existing members is I pull out the CC manual and I pull out the icebreaker project and I show them, because one of the challenges we've had is getting our some of our dinosaur members, I shouldn't say that word, but the ones that just show up and don't really want to do anything, is I show them. I said, here's the CC manual, here's the icebreaker. I said, here's the manual or here's the pages for the icebreaker. And I said, can you imagine what your icebreaker would have been like if you went through this? And I said, this is just the icebreaker. I said, I realize that it may not be the most I guess, easily used system. There's some challenges, especially for those who are not great with the technology. But when you think about the old program having 68 competencies, the new program having 300 competencies, and you show them what's possible, and you tell them that, you know, when we're talking about onboarding, you've got a video for and a video against. And I said, can you imagine? I mean, there are still things that you want to learn. And they go, oh, wow. Because I find that the people who are complaining are the ones that haven't even chosen a path yet. So I think that might be a start. Because I know for me, I'm working on DTM number 7. I got 6 already. I've done 12 HPLs. I'm not going to do any more. But I don't do it for the credit. I do it because it's just a goal. It's just a destination. So if you can find things, if you know the individual, if you can find out what's important to them or what there's some interest, or maybe they want to just help someone, right? There's a whole program on mentoring, whereas in the old program, it really wasn't that formalized. So if you could try to find something to pique their interest, you know, or you assign them something. Hey, can you do me a favor? Like what Vitaliy said, I love that. You know, just say, don't ask if you want, just say, hey, I need some help with this. Can you do this for me? I would start there and just see. My thoughts.
If we can continue, I would like to add for Leslie to this answer. Keep asking people, why did you join? Keep asking people what keeps you in the program. For example, Greg said today he's completing his 7th DTM. Greg, why do you do that? Interview people on that. The answers will stick in your mind. Some answers will stick in your mind forever because you will hear amazing stories. Share these stories with others. These stories will help you to recruit people. These stories will help you to motivate people. So when you're chairing a meeting and you're inviting somebody on the stage or to the podium, you ask in advance before the meeting, ask these people, interview these people, why did they join, etc., and then share with everybody. When I asked Kevin why he joined Toastmasters, that's what I've heard, right? Do this, add this into introduction for people. That will help you, first of all, to remember who your people are. But secondly, it will help you to promote the program. That's how we promote the program, through these stories. I hope this will help.
Nina.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more, which is that show everyone a direct takeaway to their professional lives. For example, I recently addressed a group of school teachers who've started a club, and I was like, Toastmasters is not just a place for, you know, delivering a pretty speech and going back. Look at it from the point of view, you have a lesson to prepare, deliver, and, you know, how do your students receive it? Look at them as an audience. I said, when we were students, we had only 3 categories for teachers: boring, least boring, most boring. So decide which category you want to get into. See how you can spice up your classes, give your students interactive things, evaluate on the basis of what you did was wrong, not you're a bad student. Table topics is when your student asks you an awkward question, how do you answer that? So and then you go on to all the different pathways and say that, you know, presentation skills, this is what it does, this is how it helps you in your professional life. You can practice your presentations here before you go to the client or for your budget meeting, understand how it's done, anticipate the questions, get a hostile audience member, all of those things, show them how it works in the workplace. That's when Toastmasters starts making sense. And then, you know, we have here what we call the Indian Institutes of Management, and I say, Toastmasters is your IIM. Invest in myself. That's how you need to get people interested.
That's a good point, Nina, because that's what Pathways is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a more practical application. Yeah, you're right.
Show them a direct link. How does it help
Absolutely.
you become better at your workplace?
Thanks for the reminders, because these are things we used to say, but then we forgot. Because I mean, as Pathways ambassador, you're always, I was doing that for almost 2 years, but then you forget. So thank you.
Go back to the basics.
Yeah.
How do you engage your members? How do you engage the corporate members? Because a number of our clubs are struggling. and I find it is lack of engagement. So how do we re-engage them?
So I don't know if I don't know if I can answer that question. I mean, like, we have an interesting dynamic in our club that we are actually growing. Our corporate club is actually growing. And I think one of the reasons is because we've changed the meetings up constantly. There's always something new. We bring in guest speakers. We make the meetings fun. Table topics is always very creative. So we've not had a problem with membership. I mean, our membership over the last what happened recently, I worked for regional government, and a couple of our members actually got redeployed because of the coronavirus to, help out in senior homes. And so actually being a past president, didn't have a role on the executive, but I was pulled in to VP membership, and I've been busy signing up people because people see the value. I mean, some of the meetings we invited a guest speaker just 2 weeks ago, and people really enjoyed the dynamic, the change to have this, completely different perspective. I'm listening to all of the people here from different parts of the world, and I find this is, it's amazing the power that you have from this platform, this Zoom platform. And I think it's something that even the community clubs can take more advantage of in terms of changing up the meetings. And, I'd probably be reaching out to some of you guys in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Iona, I want to suggest, I had an opportunity of interviewing Pat Johnson last July about her book. She wrote a book called Handbook for Building and Sustaining Vibrant Corporate Toastmaster Programs and Corporations. It's a mouthful. So if you go to toastmasterspodcast.com, it's episode 148. And there we had a really good discussion about that. A lot of it, not a lot of it, but in many cases, when corporate clubs are started, they're treated like community clubs, but they have a very different dynamic. They have a very different interaction. And one of the things is sometimes even the terminology. That's why Pat likes to call them corporate programs rather than corporate clubs, because they don't have clubs, they have programs. So that also might be a possibility of, check out that podcast, listen to what she has to say. But I'm thinking, again, there's moments of truth, which is an educational that you could do to do some inquiries in terms of what's going on within the club, but also having a look at maybe it's just being positioned wrong. So I don't know what the challenge is in terms of engagement. Is there not a buy-in from the company? Is it people who are indifferent? Because I know I sponsored and mentored a club that I had one guy that I said, you need to go outside of your club. You need to go beyond these walls because you're getting too comfortable with this audience. And he said, I don't do anything if it's not within work hours. So I thought to myself, well, okay, if you don't want to help yourself, there's really not much I can do for you. So it's a matter of finding out, why are they doing, and again, why are they Toastmasters? Are they there because they have to be there, or are they there because they actually want to learn something? Maybe the lack of engagement is just that they don't know what to do. They don't have enough people that are there that have any experience. So it could be anything, but I just thought that might be one thing to think about, to try.
So I have reviewed Pat Johnson's many videos. I have read her book cover to cover. I have done a synopsis for myself just to figure out the different terminology. But right now we have a brand new club in our district. It just charted in February and it's already struggling. And that's very shocking. And so I want to know how to revive it. And I've attended every meeting. I've started attending the meetings. And there's only 2 members or 3 members. And I understand the pandemic hit during this time. And there seems to be, I don't know what's missing. The mentors are lost. The sponsors are lost. And my concern is, we just started the club, how can we lose it? And the sponsor is struggling because, as you know, he's running every meeting and he's such a good Toastmaster. His heart is in the right place. And I want to help and I don't know how to help.
You wanna call me, we can discuss that. But Greg said absolutely right thing. Start from the moments of truth. Even if you have only 3 members left in a club, you can still revitalize that club. And that's like legally, that's enough. If you have 3 members from the old membership list, you can renew the club, rebuild the club. But you must start from the moments of truth to allow members to find out for themselves what do they want from this club, how much they want to work, what exactly and when exactly they want to see that club, and what kind of club they want to see. It's them. All you can do is facilitate that moments of truth for them. You cannot make the club successful. Club has to decide to make themselves successful. And they will use you as a tool, and as a tool provider, and as a helper, if they decide to do so. You cannot decide for them. That's the trick. Moments of Truth is a wonderful program for you to use right now, just to establish that beginning point with that club. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nina.
Yeah, I wanted to say this is a golden opportunity for you to have joint meetings. Invite them to attend other meetings, either within your area. You can have a joint meeting with another club where these people play roles and or speak or whatever. Sorry, excuse me. And across the world, there are so many things happening. Let them just individually, these 3 that are there, once they start understanding the process and once they see other clubs and how they're working, you'll find, and you invite all the club members every time, you'll distinctly find the change within about almost a week or 10 days if they attend Zoom meetings like this at any time that's convenient for them, with clubs or with a lot of other activities going on, for example, parliamentary procedure or all of those things. There's so many amazing things happening with, across the districts. Or like this panel discussion, which I think was so useful. If any of them had attended this, they would have found it useful. So I think that's one step we can do. Give them a list of places that they can attend. Yeah, Kevin.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. As I said before, there's a lot of material. The friendship has been excellent, and I want to thank all of you for attending tonight. I'd like to end the session by saying, expect the video link to be up by Friday, and the email to the participants with the contact information for the panelists will be out by that day as well. So thank you for participating tonight, and I can't wait to see all of you at a future convention. And good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Good night.
Nina, it's good morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good day, everybody.
Oh, that's